Coming in. So folks, we're going to kick off. So thanks for joining the session this morning, and thanks to our judges. Hopefully this will give you plenty of insight on what a judge looks for in a really good entry, in a winning entry. These sessions are set up for all organisations entering awards in the sustainability space. But obviously, as we're the Global Good Awards, I'm going to give you a little bit of introduction on the Global Good Awards, just in case you're not aware of already. As far as I'm aware, we are the only truly sustainable awards programme. We certainly practice what we preach, and we do everything sustainably. You can see our website for more information on that. We were accredited with the Awards Trust Mark back in 2018, and we've retained that every year. And we were first in the world to receive the gold standard. And that mark is to recognise ethical and transparent practices and that builds trust between entrants and the award schemes that they're entering. And from next month, we'll also be signed up to 1% for the planet. So 1% of all of our turnover from the awards will be going to 1% for the planet. And also, if you're going to enter the Global Good Awards this year, we will be doing a buy one, get one tree, which if you enter one of our awards, we'll protect. We won't plant one tree, we're going to protect one tree. So on to some of the categories that we're running. We've got 18 categories this year. We've got a couple of new ones. We've introduced waste and waste reduction and minimalisation. And we've also added a COVID Crisis Champions Award, which is free to enter to any public sector service or any public sector school, and also to any organisation entering another category. You can still enter as an individual category, but it's free if you enter another category. Today's session, we're going to be talking about technology for good, product of the year, and the innovation special judges award for innovation. And that category is free to enter if you were to enter various other categories, and you get an additional section in the application form to tick the box to say you want to be entered into innovation, and you have to submit an extra couple of 100 words to quantify that. So before I come on to the judges, I'm just going to explain how the session will run. Judges are going to give a little introduction. They're going to qualify why they're on this session particularly, and then they're going to tell you one thing that really impresses them in an entry, and then one thing that they would mark you down for if you were to put into your entry. And then it's over to you to drive the session and drive the questions. So I hope you do have come armed with questions. If you want to ask a confidential question to one of the judges, if you can put it in the Q&A section using anonymous, and then I'll highlight to the judges that there's one there to be answered. If there's a particular judge that you'd rather answer it, then let me know, put it on there. But if you want to do an open question, then please put it in the chat feature and just make sure you've selected panelists and attendees, so all the attendees can see what question you've asked. And then it'll be over to one of the judges to answer that question live for you. And I'll read those out, those public questions out. So the session will be recorded and it will be uploaded to YouTube and on our website after the event. So today we have some amazing judges that are going to be evaluating these entries. These probably will be the judges that will evaluate these categories. And some of our judges have been with us since 2015, 2016, and some even simply refuse to give up their seats. So today we have Georgina Wilson-Powell from Pebble magazine. She's joining us for her 4th year, I think. Is it Georgina, 4th year? Yogesh Chauhan from TCS, Tata Consulting Services. He's 3rd year on the panel, and he's Tata have been finalists and won a bronze award with us before. And Joe Bagley from VMware, they won Company of the Year in 2017. And it's also his 3rd year. So shall I kick off with the judges? Yogesh, shall I start with you? Unmute yourself.
Right, first error. Karen, thank you very much, and welcome everyone. And I guess in terms of what we might be looking for, well, let me start with a slightly fuller introduction to myself. So I'm the Director for Corporate Sustainability for Tata Consultancy Services. We actually are a IT services firm and a digital services firm, now ranked as probably the second or the third largest. We employ 450,000 people globally. And we provide the technology backbone for most of the interactions and businesses that you might be dealing with on a daily basis, whether it's going to your supermarket, not that we're flying anymore, but whether you are going to do any transactions in terms of e-ticketing, for example, or if you were buying a car, a lot of the technology behind it, a lot of it is developed and run by us. And so I focus on the Technology for Good Award and the Innovation Award. And I guess the kind of things I'm looking for, the one thing that always impresses me is if an award is clear and I understand it, because so many applications are submitted where actually I struggle to actually understand what the award is about, because the language isn't clear, the message isn't succinct and direct enough, and really there's no substitute for just getting down to basics using non-jargon language and a very clear message about what you have done in the space of whether it's innovation or whether it's technology for good, and stating it absolutely clearly. And that, I think, is for me the starter, because if I don't understand it in the first few minutes, I will struggle throughout, and therefore, you know, one loses marks. The bad thing, I guess, is, or the thing that impresses me less is actually the converse of that, but also when we see applications where it's actually business as usual, where a company is or an organization does that anyway, does the initiative, whether it's a technology solution, you know, if you're providing data centers, then to apply for an award that your data centers are green and that is what you do for a living anyway, I feel kind of lets the application down. So I'm often looking for something above and beyond business as usual, above the kind of normal operations of the organization. So something unique, something different, something innovative, something that the company is experimenting with or has done successfully and has grown in stature, etc. So that's what I'm actually looking for. So I hope that helps.
Thank you, Yogesh. Let's come on to Georgina, shall we?
Hi everyone, thanks for having me back again each year, Karen. It's become a real annual highlight of every year, and it's so impressive of how we've all pivoted into the virtual space over the last month and made it work. So this is really, I think this is a really beneficial part of it. So just to give you some background, I launched Pebble magazine in end of 2016, and over the last 4 years we've grown into the leading digital sustainable lifestyle magazine. We also have a big events arm. So pre-pandemic, we were doing big one-day festivals in London for sort of about 1,000 people at a time. And since then, we've pivoted into virtual events like everybody else. And we also have a massive online community, which we are about to develop even further in that space, as of lean into our community even more. And I think what I bring to the awards is actually a more of a sense of what the consumer is after and what consumer trends are doing, because Pebble works across every industry pretty much, and we have a good sense of what consumer trends are doing, what product trends are doing, and actually a lot of different startups are offering in terms of services and products. So that actually does lead into one of the things that I've sometimes find frustrating with entries is when it's a new type of product and actually the entry is assuming they're the only product in that space or they're the only company doing a certain thing, when actually anyone working in that space would understand that there's many people. We tend to see clusters of new ideas. So a few years ago, everyone was jumping on the hard bar shampoo idea. Last year, I think we had 3 entries all in the eco cleaning sector. So it's really interesting to see the trends that we see in the magazine play out in the awards. So actually being sort of open and honest if you're not the only player in your space is no bad thing. It's actually, you know, it is quite annoying when you get an entry that is brilliant, but people are trying to pass it off as something absolutely brand new and you're the only person doing it. A bit like what Yogesh was saying, clear information really, really helps, and not hiding key statistics in all the associated documentation. Sometimes the entry is, you know, not mind-blowing, but when you dive into all the documentation, you find stuff that actually should be front and center of your entry. So I think there's no hardship in sort of, you know, really championing the statistics that make sense and you know, giving them clear explanations and not sort of hiding them away in the documentation, and also being, you know, honest about where you are as a business. We see especially in the product category, we see a lot of new to market brands, and the application can be written as if you've got years of trading experience, and then you find out right at the end of the application that actually you haven't launched to market yet. So just being honest about where you are isn't a bad thing. You don't have to sort of, you know, ramp it up if you haven't actually, you know, launched to a wide a mainstream market yet. So I think just there's nothing wrong with being honest about what you've achieved so far. And what really makes an entry stand out for me, especially if you've got more than one working in the same space, is those entries where you can see the company's gone above and beyond to work to push forward their industry. So getting involved in issues that affect the industry rather than just your company always impresses me, because it shows a dedication that you're really in it for the sustainable angle and that you are looking to make the world a better place outside of just your own business. So those are the ones that really stand out to me.
Thanks, Georgina. Right, Joe, coming over to you.
Yeah, hi, thanks. So my name's Joe Bagley. I'm the Chief Technology Officer for VMware in this region for me, which is Europe, Middle East and Africa. For those of you who don't know, VMware's, depending on who you look at, one of the 4th, 5th largest software companies in the world. We're about 30,000 people worldwide. We've been fairly committed to a route of sustainability, or what we call tech for good, for a very long time. It's built into our culture, sort of grown out of where we came from in California, to be honest. We have had a 2020 agenda for a while. We beat all of those goals. We got to carbon neutral in 2018. We hit the RE100 in 2019. And now we're heading beyond that with 30 goals for 30, but I'm not going to bore you all those with those. Now you can look those up on our website. So in my role, I'm responsible for innovation at VMware, but I also drive the sustainability efforts and sit on our Global Sustainability Tech Council. And for us, sustainability is not just what we do as a company in our operations, but it's also how we promote sustainability in our products to our customers. So I'm looking at, actually, believe it or not, at the moment, one of the researches I'm doing is how we can have more energy efficient code and how we can drive more energy efficient code in our development, believe it or not. So it's some really interesting things we can do in this space. So I sit very much on the technology side of things, but I have a broader interest in sustainability and that general area myself, being, as Karen will tell you, massively interested in energy and solar panels and batteries and electric cars and all these other kind of wonderful things as well. So I've got a very strong interest in this space and the future for what we're doing in there. For me, there's a couple of real things that stand out when I look at judging, and I think Yogesh covered it really, really well. I need like an ELI 5, and those of you who are Reddit fans know that ELI 5 stands for explain it like I'm 5, or as I used to say, explain it to my mother. You know, it needs upfront. It needs something that literally says, how would you explain this to someone in the street, to your mother, to whatever? Don't assume that the judge has a huge amount of knowledge in your area, your technology space, or a huge amount of experience in that. Also, I think positioning it in the market for the judges really helps too. Save us having to go and look at what else, you know, sometimes we want to go, well, what else is out there like this already? You know, is this new? Is this novel? Is this different? What makes it? So something to help us position that in that space really, you know, does help massively. So, you know, make it as easy for the judges as possible for them to understand your proposition and position you in the market and position you in what's going on. But don't make them do the work, because someone else won't. Is the answer. So someone else will make it easier for them. I think the other thing for me, the sort of the big no, or the big turn off for me, is you can quite quickly spot where people are just doing this because they've got some new ESG goals and this was on the tick list, you know, or it's a new CSR thing. I'm looking honestly in these awards for people who are doing this because it's the right thing to do, you know, and not because, you know, they're just doing what's right, if that makes sense. You know, it has to be, I will give big awards for an organization where it's built into the culture of that organization to do these kind of things. It's not just, oh, we've got a sustainability department and the sustainability department are forcing us all to do this, so we're ticking all these boxes. That's a big turn off. So, you know, my summary: make it easy for the judges, position it, you know, as I say, ELI 5, explain it like I'm 5 years old, make it simple, position it well, and have an authenticity. And, you know, in what you're doing, that really stands out. And in the past, I've looked at some phenomenal ones where that authenticity has really stood out. And, you know, one that really stood out to me, to be honest, Karen, over the years, was addressing the unaddressed. You remember that? That was phenomenal. You know, that was where someone had taken a technology, which is just the plus codes built in Google, but we're applying that to giving addresses to people in Calcutta, you know, in slums, etc. And that for me, that was using technology for good in a way that was authentic. And it was phenomenal that people were doing it. It wasn't, you know, oh, I found a really good way to make money as well. It was kind of that thing. And that's also another thing to point out. And I just don't want to keep rambling here, but one of the things for me is, for us at VMware, tech for good is about finding a sustainable future, is about finding a profitable future in sustainability. And I think that's really important. Sustainability shouldn't be something that comes at a cost. It should be something that is you know, a profitable activity, something that people can actually thrive on. And if we can build an economy based on sustainable activity that actually, you know, gives people livings and provides that a little bit, then I think that stands out hugely to me as well, rather than, you know, we're spending money on being sustainable. That's not attractive either.
Can I add to that actually as well? Like, I think being honest about turnover and size of the business and the number of people that you've helped already, or the impact it's had on consumers or on the industry, they're all the statistics that we want. They're the information that we need, rather than it being hidden in flowery language or buzzwords or industry jargon. We want to see that impact really, really clearly, and that goes a long way into wanting to spend more time on an application and really dig deep into it.
Meaningful numbers. To your point, is, you know, not just this improved massively, or, you know, this was great, this was greatly well received. It's almost like, well, fine, I could write that, but that's all subjective. The quantifiable stuff is very important too. And there's a question in there from Charlie, I see, about how important do you feel testimonials and case studies are in applications. I think they're very important, to be honest, because it gives a sounding board for it, and it gives us some kind of grounding. But bear in mind, we've all been in this game a long time, and we can see through them as well. So again, authenticity is great. If one thing that, I mean, we had this before, where one of them looked absolutely fantastic, but when you literally lifted under the skin and saw some of what was going on behind the scenes, where the product was made, how it was being shipped, if we remember that one, etc., it's like, oh, okay, fine, there's some greenwash going on here. And unfortunately, it's sad if we find out, if you're looking through an application and there's one lie in there, suddenly it's a long way to come back from one lie. You know, even one small white lie, it's a long way to come back in someone's opinion from that. So, you know,
just carrying on from that question, Charlie, I always try to encourage entrants to not give judges or upload supporting documents that are like 60 pages long, because they often do. Entrants have done that because they think, I've got 5 documents that I can upload here. They go, oh, I'll just throw the whole thing in. If you're going to do that, you must say in the additional information what page you want the judge to look at, because they are not, in the greatest will in the world, they are not going to sit there and read a 60-page document. So please make sure that if there's any really key testimonials, any key information that you want them to read, you bring that top line and center, like Georgina said, into the application, or you highlight. You need to make sure that you put down what page you want the judge to read. So
I think we have nearly, like, didn't we have like something like 30 applications for the product category last year? And like, some of them like literally uploaded everything they've ever written. And
it was almost like brand guidelines. We don't need that. We only need your logo. We don't need to have a 20-page document on brand guidelines. So just keep it concise, keep it factual. Things that are going to prove what you're saying in your application form.
And I think as well, like remembering that we're not going to look at this in silo. We are going to research you. We're going to Google things. We don't just take everything in the application as read. You know, so if there is stuff that, as Joe was saying, if there's something that's slightly exaggerated or we think is too good to be true, we will go and do a bit of research and sort of probably find it out. And we also talk to each other. Like we judge alone, but then we come together and we judge the categories and we talk to each other about the different applications, because obviously everyone's got different experiences in different industries. So, you know, the applications really get discussed and sort of pulled apart and put back together again. So, you know, your application has to stand up to rigorous judging. You know, it's proper judging.
And I think it is worth saying that it's not like a lot of these other ones where you're just asked to give your scores and that's it, and then they're aggregated and done. The big thing about this is previously we came together physically. I think, you know, but now we do come together for quite a period of time and discuss everything in the round, you know, all the applications for a category together and discuss, and you know, there's people arguing for and against and the merits, etc., etc. So, you know, it is a rigorous process. Putting more and more information in there is not going to particularly help that. I think, you know, impactful, succinct stuff that makes a clear position that's authentic is going to be far more impactful for us than you know, huge documents. If you think about as a judge how much work we've got to do to read them, you know, if I've got 30 applications and that's 30 minutes per application, you know, that's 15 hours worth, that's 2.5 days worth, or 2 days worth, or 3 days if you take breaks into it, of actual work just to review them at half an hour each.
Yeah,
you know, so you know, that's a lot of time for us. And so, you know, just think about how long it takes to do. You've got probably sort of, if I think about it, you've got 5 minutes to grab my attention. If it's that, to think, oh, this is one really worth looking at and possibly a good one. You know, you've got to think about how you're pitching here, and it really is a pitch. It's not just assume that you've ticked all the boxes, submitted all the work, and that's it. No, you've got to pitch and you've got to sell it.
Yogesh,
yes, if I can pick up on a couple of things. There was a question about, do you accept applications from startups? That began in 2021, and I think it's a tricky one because as Georgina was saying earlier, we are looking for evidence of impact. You do need to have a little bit of a track record. If you have just started up this year and we're only into, you know, kind of the beginning of the second month, then unless you have had a track record before you've started up, then there isn't much to go on. And so, you know, kind of unless I've missed something and you have had a greater kind of impact, or you've experimented with something and then you started up your organization or company, and you want to tell us about the experimentation and what that's done and how you likely to scale up, etc., then that to some extent will work. But if it's a complete new startup, then all we will get is your aspiration, which is great, but it's not an award winner. You know, what you are aspiring to isn't going to win you the award. It's about what you've already done and what scale of impact you've had, and that's what we're looking for.
Yeah,
I think it's trying to get that balance right.
I think product and innovation is probably the only two areas that I would say that is okay for, because in best product we do say that prototypes are accepted. And so if you've done a lot of market research, you've done your homework, and you know the impact that your product is going to have, then that's okay. And innovation, in a similar stance, but probably any other category, it just won't work. You really need that at least 12 months and lots of evidence of impact.
Yeah, we need to have seen the idea turn into execution. That's the point here, really. There's a lot of people with ideas. The real success comes from execution, and it's in that execution that you find out whether it's a sustainable, profitable activity as well, I think, too. So, you know, to talk to the earlier points.
I know previous years we've had quite big debates in the consumer category, the products category, about the possible impact of new businesses or new products, and it's so difficult to tell, and it can get quite heated at times. So I think, you know, the more that you can demonstrate that impact in whatever way that looks like, it just helps the judge do their job. You know, helps us fight the case if we're really passionate for you and think you should win.
Yeah. Yogesh, were you wanting to add something else then, or was it...
No, that was the main point I wanted to reiterate.
Right, so the next question is, how do you decide whether to apply under the category of tech for good or innovation if the tech for good is an innovation as well? So this is a very easy question. You apply for the tech for good, and then you tick the box for innovation as well, and you fill in the key parts in the application that make it innovative. And innovative is, so last year we probably had 80% of applications tick the box to say they were innovative. And one of our judges had to go through all of those with a fine-tooth comb and just go, no, 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 because actually they weren't new. They weren't solving a problem that hasn't already been solved. One of them was raising money for charity for a bike.
Yeah.
They tick the box. So please make sure you read the detail about what innovative means before you fill that in, which is why we've added this year the extra section to fill in. I think it's 200 words I've added. Please tell us why your product or service is innovative, because the judges that are going to read the innovation side of things, they're not going to sit there and read 80 applications. So you can enter the tech for good, tick the box for innovation, and explain why it's innovative. Okay. Are you interested in tech for good in other ways than sustainability? I work at a charity and am thinking of how tech has done good for beneficiaries and made a difference to their lives. Would this be relevant for these awards? Who would like to take that one?
I'm quite happy to take that. Yes, absolutely. You know, if you're using the word sustainability around environmental sustainability, then yes, tech for good is way beyond that. And we've had some fantastic applications which haven't been about environmental sustainability, but more focused on societal kind of well-being. And Joe mentioned one earlier, you know, kind of addressing the unaddressed, which was a great application. And that was all about how to support people in developing countries who don't have a formal address, and how technology is providing that. So yes, fire away, get your application in, and as long as you can demonstrate impact, and as long as you are using technology in an interesting, creative way that provides benefits to individuals, then yes, we would love to hear more about it.
Yeah, we have had quite a few that are humanitarian aid, for sure, and the couple 2019 as well won the innovation, but had entered tech for good. So yeah. So any more questions, folks, or judges? Have you got anything else to add? You want to talk through? So we're just waiting for any questions to come through.
I just wanted to kind of pick up on the one thing that for me kind of makes an award really stand out is about scalability and replicability. And so, yes, you can get, because in my mind, technology has the potential, and that's why I think it's so interesting and exciting, of achieving huge scale. Because you're almost kind of not restricted by physical constraints with the application of technology in many different ways. And so I think, you know, where you have got an entry, or when I read an entry that talks about scale or the potential of scaling up and the potential of partnership working and about making that technology much more widely available, then that really grabs my attention. So I think that bit about scale is the icing on the cake almost in terms of an award-winning application.
Okay, cool. Anyone else? We've got one more question coming, which we'll handle in a minute. There's one thing I wanted to highlight, and the judges have kind of touched on this a little bit, but it's something that a lot of our judges always say to me when scoring, that they see a lot of people making empty claims in their statements, saying things like, we've made significant changes. Qualify that word, significant. What does significant mean to you? Give us the numbers. And, or as a result of X, we've boosted our employee engagement immensely. Using words like immensely, we need it qualified. You can't just say that and then it sounds great. It sounds very well, PR for a better word, but we want you to qualify what you're saying. Any judges, you got anything to add to that?
Yeah, no, sorry, Georgina.
I was just going to say, I think it goes back to putting the, having useful statistics front and center. It grabs my attention, and I love an application when you can see, our turnover is this, it's grown this much, we have impacted this many people, we have sold these many items. It immediately makes you want to understand more, rather than we've run this campaign and there's nothing there that you can grab onto to get a sense of scale, and we keep coming back to impact, that's really what it is all about, and that's demonstrating that in the clearest terms you can is the way to win a judge's heart, really.
Okay, so we've got one more question, and from Claire. We are going to be running other sessions on these particular categories, but because we've got time, I will ask the judges. What do you look for in Global Good Company of the Year, campaign, and individual leader? So, Joe, as you've won Company of the Year before, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, and I think I sort of touched on this a bit earlier on, that the Company of the Year one, and the Global Good Company, as I said earlier on, it's about the good that you're doing being core to the culture of the organization and being what the organization is all about, and everyone being involved in it, being driven behind that, and values within the company existing to support that activity, as opposed to, as I say, it's something done by the ESG group or the CSR group to go out and promote or do whatever. So I think we would be looking there for evidence of a sustained culture that and an organization that is driven around doing the right thing in that context, I think is the best way to put it. So think about how you would prove that, think about how you would show that all the employees are behind it, everyone supports it, there's activity, whatever it is that you think makes you a good company, I think is the point there. And I think that's to our point, that's what we demonstrated, certainly, with our epic values and everything else that we do around that the company exists for that goal. And it's interesting that we actually now attract talent as a result of that. So Georgina talked earlier on about the impact of a company, and those numbers could be, how many people are you employing, how many jobs have you created, how many lives are you supporting, and we'd be very interested in also in a global good company, not just in the sort of the ESG side of things, but actually I'm very interested in diversity and inclusion, or diversity, equity and inclusion as well. And how are you helping advance from a good perspective in that respect, and how's that important to you? And again, window dressing is not going to work in that space. It's got to be something that's sustained and developed for a long time. So yeah, definitely. And then I can't talk to best campaign because I've not really ever been involved in judging that one, but the leaders one would be all along those same values. It's about demonstrating clear values, and I say we talked about authenticity earlier. I think that's very important to me too.
I was involved in the campaign judging last year, and actually there was the campaigns fell into two camps, which one was amazing and one was kind of frustrating. And the frustrating sort of camp were the campaigns that were really they were sustainable, but they were more about gaining new customers or growing your business, or it was essentially a marketing campaign. The campaigns, on the other hand, that really got attention were the campaigns that were looking to change behaviors and could demonstrate that, and demonstrate the impact they had on people that had nothing to do with selling a product or selling a service. It was about more as what Yogesh was saying, more societal change. And they're the ones that seemed, they definitely stood out as being impressive. There was one by a big company in Canary Wharf that had sort of tackled massive single-use plastic work, but hadn't just run it as a campaign for 6 weeks and put small bins in place. They'd fundamentally changed the culture of the business, and we're looking at it as a long-term campaign, and came with so much, it arrived with so much information and impact and the scale of what they'd done. That was a really, really strong contender. So I think, just when you're thinking about campaigns, making sure it's not, you're not putting forward just your general marketing campaign. It's got to have, a really clear goal and impact again.
Yeah, that was actually Canary Wharf Group, because they won gold.
That was brilliant.
Good indication of a good winning entry is seeing it win in other awards for the same area. if you see it win off with us, and then it wins with Edie, and then it wins with another couple of sustainability awards, you know that it's right up there because the judges are scoring it equally. So if anyone wants to join the One On campaign, there is a big crossover between employee engagement, behaviour change and campaigns. So we are running one next Friday, which is focusing on all of those together and actually bashing out what the difference is between the three, because I think there's quite a lot of overlap, and some people get a bit confused as to which one you should put what project into. So if you want to sign up for that one, go onto the website and book for next Friday.
So Karen, can I just pick up on your earlier point about, the use of platitudes, and we've had a significant impact, and we've done this, and I think you're absolutely right, and I completely agree with you. We don't, as judges, we're not really looking for that. There is, though, a kind of slight nuance bit of not hiding behind a bushel as well. If you have had impact, and if you've had, for example, if you've won other awards, if you've had a very successful social media campaign, if you've had press releases, etc., we want to know about that. And so if you can back up things by evidencing that actually you've run either a successful media campaign, or that there has been interest from the media in some shape or form with your initiative, then that is a good way of actually demonstrating it. And actually, it's, if I'm correct, Karen, it's about 15% of the marks, is it not, in terms of talking about how you promoted your initiative, etc. So it's quite important.
It's around that. I'll confirm in a sec. We're talking about tech, are we?
Yes, yeah.
I think the percentages are roughly the same for most of the categories. Yeah, I'll come to that. Anyone else got anything? Fire some more questions, folks. We'll be online for another 20 minutes if you want us to kick about. So 15% raising awareness to promote. So yeah, anything. Picking up on what Yogesh said, you might put a campaign out that had such a massive reach with Twitter, or if it had like 200,000 retweets or something, just make sure you've got that kind of information in, because you've reached those people enough to get them to retweet it. Or I know it's only a really small thing, but just highlighting all of those things, that's what the judges want to see.
So you're not working in a vacuum, and you've actually you've engaged with your audience, your industry, and whether it's another award, or whether it's a commendation or anything, even if it's not a sustainability award, if you've won an award in your industry that isn't particularly sustainable focus, it all shows that there's been, you've got that authenticity, that you've already been working in this space and you've had other success. We love the fact, we love seeing people who've already had other successes. Yeah, I agree completely. Romain, all of the percentages are on the website under criteria on each category. So just had a question, are you happy to share the split of percentage? Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so just go to each category. They're all there, very transparent. Everything on our website is transparent and clear from the very offset.
But just to pick up on that, it is worth emphasizing that you have just having a look at the categories and the percentages, it's 75% of the marks around the technology itself, and you telling us, first of all, kind of how you've applied the technology for good, what the innovation bit of it is, and the effectiveness of the technology. So that's really where the bulk of the award, the marks are around the technology itself, and it has to be robust, and we are looking for good innovative application of technology. So if you are using big data, for example, then we want to know lots about how you are using the whole concept of big data as a force for good, and to just spell that out in a lot more detail, and to give us the kind of the richness of information that would elevate it beyond just a kind of a blanket statement of yes, kind of of how big data is being used by everyone. It's about the actual application for it in the problem you are addressing.
Yeah, cool, good. Yeah, so just picking up on Romaine's question, do check the percentages split on your category. There's no point spending, 50% of your application focusing on the area that is only 15% of the marks. Make sure that you really give the time to the areas, because everything's marked out of 20, so it's a score of 10 in half increments that the judges give. And if you get an 8 out of 10 for something that's 15%, but you get 5 out of 10 that's something that's 40%, it's going to massively impact your overall score. So please make sure you do look at those percentages. Cool. Anything else?
And also, I want to say, perhaps it was covered earlier, I can't quite remember, but if you face challenges, we want to know about that. It's in that whole thing of being transparent and honest, and actually talking and being open about some of the challenges you have faced, whether it's getting the money, or whether it's about scaling up, or whether it's about reaching your target group, etc. Then tell us about it, and actually it makes for a better application to talk about the challenges. We don't just want to hear how great and brilliant your innovation is. We want to know about how you've tackled some of the barriers you might have faced as well.
And I think from this year or last year onwards, I think more people can feel comfortable talking about their challenges because of what's happened in the last 12 months.
Yes.
The amount of times that I've seen stuff on LinkedIn now that people are really being honest and open about how they feel, about what the challenges they've had in their business, and they're not ashamed to show those, and don't feel that's a weakness, because it isn't. You say.
Is it worth saying, if you've been disrupted in 2020, or things have been delayed and things haven't happened as quickly as you'd like, it's we're all in that situation, so we're not going to mark people down for
So do say, how has COVID affected your business is going to be something that we want to see, because it's affected everybody. Like I say, that we're all on the same sea, we're just in different boats. So yeah, so I think we don't have any other questions come in yet. So if anyone's got anything else they want to add, otherwise we can close off. I'll give you a minute or so to think about anything else. I was just going to go through a couple of our Q&As in case, so that on our website there is a page under entry info Q&A. So if there's anybody thinking of entering, just got a few general questions, have a look on there. But there's one area about our activity or project doesn't quite fit the description, the criteria. Can we still enter? Yes, because it's very difficult for us to write criteria in a description for a category that around fits a square hole or a peg and hole. So just if you've got an activity that is really, really strong in one of the areas but not so strong in something else, don't just assume that it won't fit. We try to open it up as much as we possibly can. If it's a great project, it's a great activity, then just you can always email me. Don't feel I'm always at the end of a phone or the end of an email. We're not just an online application. So yeah, do always ask. So I think no one else has asked any questions. So shall we close off, guys? Any closing words?
Good luck, I suppose, really.
No, other than to just encourage everyone to submit an application, try your best with, kind of putting in as good an application as you're able to, and just read the criteria. Address it fully. If the application is about tech for good, then focus on the tech and read the criteria. Tell us about the innovation. Tell us about the problems you face. Tell us about how you might scale it, how how you've managed to reach the communities you are reaching, etc. So address every single point as accurately as you can, and following the criteria, because we do see a lot of applications, and you get a lot of additional information that isn't relevant, and it just makes life harder, not only for us, but I guess in terms of your ability to get a strong, concise message to us is lost then.
For me, it's a good, clear, concise, endearing, honest, authentic application from two people in a garage in Deptford is probably going to do a lot better than a load of greenwash from a large corporate. So don't feel put off because you're small and they're big or whatever. You may be surprised. You know, give us your best.
Yeah, one of the things that we do brief our judges on is don't overlook the small guys, because they could be having a more individual impact based on resources and input than a large corporate, and more genuine. And please don't we always say this to people, please don't leave everything to the last minute, especially if you're a big corporate, because you will end up, you've got to go through various different departments to get the data that you need. If you leave it to the last minute, someone will be on holiday, someone needs to sign it off, you end up needing extension, and quite often you'll rush the application, and then it won't, it won't have the impact that you needed. So please allow yourself time.
Yeah.
Georgina, any closing?
I think it just goes back to what the other guys were saying, and about passion. Don't be afraid to share that passion with us, and we want to see that. You've obviously, you might have started something, or being involved in a startup, or joined a company because of your passion for this area. So don't be afraid to let that shine through.
Cool. Great. Okay, we'll close off now. So thank you, judges, and thank you to everyone that attended. Yeah, please do if you want to join any of the others. They're all on the website, and we'll see you soon. Thanks.
Right. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.